WMEX Quincy, Boston. Streaming at WMEXBoston.com. And on your smart speaker, just say play WMEX.
The greatest hits of all time are back. This is the all-new WMEX.
WMEX Boston.
Chris Shea's Financial Puzzle Plan is a show dedicated to helping you understand your financial path and the puzzle pieces that build it up. Join us each week as Chris explores various topics in the financial industry along with his guests and your calls at 781-834-9639. Here's your host, Chris Shea of BPS Financial Services.
Happy Tuesday after Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful holiday weekend. Overate and got the leftovers taken care of nicely. Hopefully none of the leftovers are in your fridge anymore. Hopefully they're in the freezer if you still have them. Because if you are still going to eat them, 5 days might be a little bit too much. But we digress. Welcome to the Financial Puzzle Pieces. I am Chris Shea of BPS Financial Services out of Marshfield, and this is my fourth show. So we've had a couple call-ins. Disclaimer: truth be told, kind of plants that knew the guests that I had on each week. But the purpose of this, again, I'm a financial advisor. I deal with investments with people. I help with that. However, one thing I always tell people is that there's so much more to their finances than just the investment pieces. And one of those big pieces is insurance. And I will be the first one to tell you that insurance sucks to talk about. And you're right. I mean, that's funny, but it's also true. Nobody wants to talk about insurance. You know, you have the cute commercials on TV, save 15% in 15 minutes or whatever it is, and you go and you select insurance, and it can wind up being what you think is the best thing since sliced bread because you save $3 a month, and then it winds up being the worst thing in the world that you ever did. And before we get into the depths of it, I will say that I know about that firsthand. My past, I grew up in Hanover, Mass. I went to UMass Amherst, went and got my MBA down in Tulane in New Orleans, and then moved out to LA in 2003. Met the mother of my daughter. We got married. And then in 2012-ish, I was walking in a crosswalk in a parking lot, and I got hit by a truck.
Yikes.
A 6,000-pound SUV vehicle. And fortunately enough for me, I'm a little bit more athletic than I appear. And when I heard it coming, I kind of jumped. It hit me, and it threw me like 10 to 15 feet away from the grill because it was nice and flat and big and heavy. And my sunglasses wound up down by the tire. If I hadn't jumped, I'd probably be dead. But I did jump. So I got hit by a truck. Very painful. But in the moment, I was just a little bit in shock, right? Because you just got hit by a truck. Like, nobody expects to get hit by a car walking a crosswalk. We exchanged information. I went back to work thinking I was okay, which is where the funny part of the story comes in.
Double yikes.
I was doing practice management, helping other financial advisors with their jobs to do it better, and I get back to the desk, and all of a sudden the left side of my body just starts to hurt like the dickens. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, now I got to go to the hospital. Like, I am in so much pain. I'm a 30-something-year-old adult. I'm on the verge of tears. Like, I'm in agony. And I have this meeting in a couple hours, and I'm trying to think about how best to call them up and tell them that I'm getting... I got to cancel the meeting, right? And so I pick up the phone, and I'm in one of those call areas where like 8 or 10 people are on the phone making outbound calls. It's not really a call. You think of cold calling people. This wasn't all cold calls. This was warm calls, assisting financial advisors with things. But we're all on the phones usually, and there's a lot of noise. So I pick up the phone. I call this person I'm supposed to meet with at like 2 p.m. and I say, hey, I got to cancel. Something just came up. And the woman on the phone that answers is like, oh, what'd you get hit by a car? I said, yeah, actually, I did get hit by a car.
Funny you say that.
And as soon as I said, yeah, I got hit by a car, the entire area around me just stopped talking. Because in the back of you kind of hear things in the background. Like everybody stopped talking, and you saw like 6 or 7 heads pop up and all kind of look at me and like, what the hell are you doing here? You got hit by a truck? Like, what are you doing? Like, they start yelling at me. They're very upset. And I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, you're right. I'm an idiot. I got in my car. I went down to the local health stop or whatever, got x-rays. Turns out the guy that hit me, he got nervous about it as well. He wound up going to the police station. I wound up calling the police station afterwards, so we both reported it. The ironical part about that was in the shopping center I was in, there was a Chipotle, and the 2 officers that wound up on the case were having lunch at the Chipotle when it happened.
So they were there too.
Yeah, they were there. They just didn't see it because it was we kind of handled it pretty quickly and got out of there. So I went home. My wife at the time was going nuts. She's like, "Oh my God, you're an idiot!" And I'm like, "Thank you very much for reconfirming this. We got to find a lawyer to help us out because within 10 minutes of getting home, or the next day, I got a phone call from the insurance company. We'll give you $1,000 to settle it." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks. I'm calling a lawyer." And they went, "Okay." So
they were like, "Yeah, well, we tried."
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's their job. Their job is not to compensate you. Their job is to go with what the contract says. So we're walking out, or I call up a lawyer, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, great! You got hit by a car. This is gonna be fantastic. Let's meet. Let's get together." We sit down, and he's like, "So, what's going on?" I'm like, "Well, I got hit." He goes, "Okay, what's your insurance policy look like? Give me your insurance numbers." I gave him my insurance policy. I gave him the other guy's thing. My insurance policy, and again, this is 2010, 11, 12, somewhere in there, 2012. Because my daughter was 2, she's now 13. Yeah, it's about 2012. I had put my underinsured motorist at the bare minimum, which meant $15,000, $30,000. And for those that don't know how insurance works, that's $15,000 for an individual, $30,000 for a car. And the guy's like, "Okay, well, that's not the best, but whatever. We'll see what their insurance is." Well, he had the least amount of insurance too. Long story longer. Yeah, perfect thing right there. Long story longer. My lawyer tells me the most I'm going to get you is $15,000. I'm going to get a third, and the costs are going to come out of your 2/3. And my wife at the time goes bananas. She starts calling up 7 or 8 different attorneys and has me doing a whole bunch of interviews with them. And they're like, "Oh, we're going to get you so much more money." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Well, these are the facts." And each one of them said, "Are you an idiot?"
Never mind, we're capped at 15,000.
Exactly. That's exactly what they said. They're like, "The most I get is 15 grand, and I'm not going to steal a client for a $5,000 fee." Like that's honor amongst thieves, I guess, is what you'd call that. Sorry for my lawyer friends. It's a lawyer joke.
We love the truthful honesty here on WMEX.
But yeah, so the point being, even though I'm a financial advisor, because I did my car insurance incorrectly and saved, and I think I look back and I literally saved $2 a month for my underinsured motorist coverage, not being at the max. It cost me $300,000
Ouch.
for $2 a month because I went and figured it out online that I could save myself $2 a month, which, $24 a year. I'm like, oh, and again, in my 30s, 40s. I'm like, that's, half of a dinner, dinner out at the time with stuff with my, or a quarter of a dinner out with my wife at the time. I'm like, okay, you know what? That's worth it. Oops, big mistake. So again, when I talk about the financial puzzle of your life, sometimes the biggest mistakes people make are not in their investments, but in how they allocate their funds to support their lives, right? And so tonight's topic of conversation, in case you hadn't figured it out already, is going to be insurance. I got a gentleman here. He's going to be my running mate every month on the topic of insurance. Kyle Austin from Austin Insurance. I am now going to, after my long diatribe about my insurance nightmare, where he's been laughing his butt off at me and making hand signals about how much I was an idiot and how screwed I was. No. I'm going to let him introduce himself so you guys get to know him. But Kyle, welcome.
Thanks,
and don't be too nervous being your first time on radio.
Yeah.
Nobody's listening anyways.
No, I appreciate that. I think that, you kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit, right? With this puzzle of life and with insurance, it's like
first, before you get into the insurance part, tell us a little bit about you and your background and why you actually are one of these people that do insurance.
Yeah, that actually decide to take on this wacky world of insurance, huh? So, well, my name's Kyle, and I'm one of the owners of Austin Insurance Agency. My dad and my brother and me. So it's a family business. It's a third generation business. And what we're finding, honestly, with a lot of this stuff, honestly, Chris, is your story is not unique. It's really not. And I think,
no, that's why I tell it and laugh about it.
And I think that these stories happen all the time with us. So I've grown up on the South Shore. So I grew up in Plimpton. That's where originally I was from. So that's a whole bunch of cows, a whole bunch of farms. And then I lived on Cape for a little bit. I went to Cape Cod Community College, so that's where I went for college. And, at the time, I was kind of disappointed in myself, but then I thought, this actually worked out really well because I didn't come out with a ton of student debt, basically. From there, I pretty much went into the restaurant world. So I was a waiter, then I became a bartender, then I was a chef for a little bit.
What's your favorite drink to make?
Oh, God. My favorite drink is Manhattan. So I'm going to just say Manhattan because that's the easiest one. Now, when I was selling alcohol, probably a Long Island iced tea because those tend to be a little bit more expensive and they were kind of fun to make because you put in a whole bunch of stuff in there, know. So, but I did that and my dad came to me. And I was a little upset. I'm in my, I'm in my 20s. I'm not financially where I think I should be. I'm working like a dog. I'm working, Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm starting to have some of my friends that have graduated college, and they're getting these like 9-to-5 jobs. Right. They have weekends off. They have all these holidays off. And I'm like, I really want that too. And my dad, him and I were just talking one day, and I'm just kind of saying, no, I don't know, like the restaurant world, I've been doing it for so long. It's really eaten me alive. And he said, I need help in the office. If you can get licensed, I'll give you a job. So
Big if,
right? And of course it's family business. So I think, even at the time, I probably thought, God, this is like a great opportunity that I just do not want to miss. So I took a vacation at my work just so I could really think about it. I really wanted to make sure that, I wasn't just going to take the easy way out almost. Right. And maybe because I was like, insurance? I don't know anything about insurance. I knew what I was paying for my cars, but I had no idea.
Hopefully your dad got you your policy.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Dad's getting the policy, making the money off me. So I started to think maybe I could do this. And so I worked for our office for probably about like 6 months, and I finally passed the exam to become a licensed insurance agent. The rest is history, man. From there, I was just off running. So I think my restaurant background really helped me to kind of go out into the world a little bit. So I went right to restaurants. That was like my very first thing. When I was like sitting in this office and I'm like, okay, now I'm making a salary, but I'm at like the base salary, right? I'm not making really more money than I was. I think I was actually making less, to be honest with you.
Yeah, when you can't factor in tips and the taxability of that.
Exactly. And so I think with all that, I started to realize sales is where I'm going to be making some money. I really needed to get out into the world and start selling insurance, not just answering phones the whole time. So I went into the restaurants. That's what I was like. I know the restaurants. I'm going to go in there. And from there, it has just gone into a whole bunch of things. So we do everything from businesses to personal home, personal auto. And because we're a family business, I think what we try to have is this like family touch on everything. And what you've gone through, Chris, is exactly what a lot of people come into our office saying that they've had is like, hey, I didn't know. And I tried to save a few bucks, or I didn't know it would only cost me a few bucks more. And so here I was with this, and I had this bad thing that happened. And now I'm like either financially in debt, or I have an injury that I just like, it will never go away.
Oh, my shoulder hurts today.
Right? And that's like the worst thing, man. It really is, because like the worst thing that I can do in my office is when I have someone like that, and then I tell them, for $20 a year, that problem could have been solved almost. And of course you don't do that. I mean, we really don't try to rub that in someone's face, but we are trying to help them out when they come to the table with these like awful, awful situations. And of course, insurance, I mean, I've dealt with everything from the very minor little things to people have died in car accidents. Yeah. And so when you start to talk about insurance, I mean, like what you went through, it's like God, what if you did die? What now would have happened, right?
Well, actually, if I had died or gotten hurt worse, then they could have opened up a real lawsuit and sued above the car insurance.
Exactly.
But my problem was I wasn't hurt badly enough, but I was hurt too much to like make it a nothing thing. Right? It was like in that perfect middle spot of, you're hurt pretty bad, but you're not debilitated.
Yeah, and even like, God, isn't it like you get the attorneys, even like the attorneys, right? They're telling you, hey, it's not even worth my time to take on your case, right? It's like even when the sharks that smell blood are telling you it's not a big enough fish for me, I'm sorry. You're kind of like, man, I'm by myself. And I think that's what we're like trying to help those people. We're trying to say like, come on in, it's free. You can sit down in my office with me, with any one of our staff, and it's all free. We're not going to charge you to sit down and talk with us. We'll go through your policies. We'll say, here's some things to think about. And I think like, under insurance, like what you're talking about, I mean, there's 3 different liability limits. You have uninsured, you have optional bodily injury, and then you have underinsured. And so sometimes we'll see people that have like split limits. So they'll have like higher liability for one of these 3, and then they'll have lower liability for the others. And you're kind of like, hey, you're creating almost a depending on what happens to me and depending on how all that comes together, I'm either going to have X for coverage or I'm going to have Y for coverage. And I think like when you know, like in my brain, I know like for $10 here or $100 here, you could solve some of these things. It just, you're trying to prevent. I mean, we're trying to prevent exactly what you went through. And it's tough because honestly, we can't predict the future. So you can't predict it. We can't. You're trying to buy the stuff ahead of time. And I'm not, we know this insurance stuff has gone out of whack now with these premiums.
Yeah. And to be perfectly transparent, when I tell people, about insurance, I do life insurance for people. And I hate doing life insurance with people.
Yeah.
Particularly with couples. Because when I do it, guess what I have to do in the room? Guess what I have to do?
Yeah, talk about death?
No. I actually have to kill one of the people and have them not talk. Right? So if you're sitting with your significant other, I'll look and be like, okay, you're dead. So your income of X thousands of dollars per year is gone. Or if you're a homemaker, you're running around with the kids, you're planning all this, is gone. How do you feel? What are you going to do? And how's your life going to be for the person that's alive? And then when the person who dies starts to come, I'm like, no, you're dead.
Yeah, you're dead. You can't talk.
You can't talk. You don't exist right now. Like, what is the scenario of this? And I tell people, insurance sucks because it's for the expensive and the unexpected, which is why a lot of people absolutely don't want to talk about it because it's that huge what if.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, like, so again, I'm going to talk about myself, but so after I got hit with a car, we moved up back to Massachusetts. We got a house in Duxbury when we moved here.
Nice. And
phenomenal deal in the house, 1.2 acres, 3 miles from the beach, swimming pool, four bedrooms, 2 baths. The swimming pool is a big deal though, right? So we got our insurance, and the first thing I did before we moved in was I bought umbrella insurance.
Yep.
And the insurance person I was working with was like, "You want what?" I'm like, before he even asked, I'm like, how much is your umbrella policy? He's like, wow, you're on top of this. I go, I got a swimming pool. If something happens, my house is worth, I think we paid $550 for it. I'm like, I need at least $1 million of insurance just in case something bad happens to cover ourselves so we don't lose our entire lives.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And he goes, well, it's going to cost something. I don't care how much it costs. Like, and it wound up being like $100 a year or something ridiculously small.
It is.
And I was like, wait, I just bought $1 million of insurance for $100. He goes, yeah. I'm like, what if I make it $2 million? He goes, I can't insure you for $2 million because the property value isn't there and all the stuff. And I'm like, oh, because I'd really like to have that much more money potentially. Right? If something bad happens.
Yeah.
Because it's for that unexpected and expensive. It's not for the everyday mundanity of life.
Yeah. You're basically, it comes down to like, can you afford whatever this is, right? So like someone slips and falls going into your pool. Can you afford
Cracks
to
open
just,
their head.
right? Can you just write them a check for $500,000? Or would you rather just pay your deductible of $1,000 through your homeowner's policy and then let your homeowner's carrier pay out that $500,000 bill, right? So I think that's what's happening all the time is it's like you're transferring this risk and you're saying, I can't afford if this like brand new truck, like I was talking just today about the value of vehicles is just
insane.
It's insane. It really is. There's no better way of saying it. Like you go to look at a brand, like the new F-150 is like, I think it's like a $90,000 or $1,000, like $100,000 vehicle now. It's just
I don't
like,
know. I have no interest in buying a car.
Oh, it's incredible.
Zero.
And this is where when you start looking at like, it's like if you can't afford, if someone totals that car on you, right? Like you lost control or I just hit you, right? Not even your fault.
Yeah.
Can you afford to pay that $90,000 to buy that brand new truck? So it's like,
Again.
It's exactly. And it's like, no, but I can afford my $1,000 deductible, right? Now, if you're not at fault, you're not paying a deductible, but that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to say like, hey, can you afford to lose all that? And if you can't, which I mean, I can, I know a lot of us can't, this is where you now look at the insurance world steps up, right? And I think you're right. Like that umbrella policy that you're talking about, the premiums are $165. That's what most companies start off at for $1 million of coverage, which covers your home and it covers your auto. Like really, like think of an open umbrella. And underneath that, you have your auto, your boat, your home, your motorcycle. And if any one of those policies underneath this umbrella, you have to exceed that limit, you have to max it out, right? You can now tap into your umbrella policy for that extra $1 million, like what you're talking about. And they'll go up to $5 million now. And these premiums are, whenever you take a step, so an umbrella policy, it comes, so most of them are, again, about $165, and they come off with, it comes with one auto, one home, one driver. So it's kind of like a cheeseburger. Think of it as like a plain cheeseburger. And you want to add lettuce, tomato, onion, or you want to add another driver, another car, or another property, they charge you just a premium for it. So we'll all find usually if you have one house and you have 2 cars and 2 drivers, right? Or if you have 2 cars and 3 drivers, you'll probably pay for $1 million umbrella. You'll probably pay about $200, I would estimate. And a lot of insurance companies now, Chris, and this is what's really neat, you know what this bundle discount that you keep on hearing, right? Like your auto and home has to be bundled.
Mahomey and
Mahomes, they're doing. I think those commercials are great. I really do. I mean, it's the competition, but they're such great commercials, right? Mahomes, auto. I mean, what a great, right? And so
whoever thought of that is just
genius, right? And when you start to look at all this stuff, so that bundling discount, companies are now giving you a bundling discount if you put an umbrella on top of your auto and home. So your $175, your $200 umbrella might actually only cost you like $100.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like when it came down to it,
Exactly.
like the bundling discount
It
of
all
the
kicks in.
home, the 2 cars at the time.
Yep.
Then we threw on that umbrella. It was like, yeah, it's gonna cost you $100 a year more. I was like,
It's crazy for $1 million. That overhangs everything that you're doing, right?
and it's not. So again, right? Insurance. I'm going to say this multiple times, so I'm going to sound like a broken record. It's for the unexpected and the expensive. If you can take, and I told this to a client recently, my job is not to necessarily make you the best return. My job is to make sure you can sleep well at night, knowing your finances are taken care of. right? When it comes down to it, that's what a financial advisor should be doing for their clients, in my humble opinion. I'm not an investment advisor. I'm not there to beat the market every single quarter. That's not what I do. I take people and I make sure that they can sleep well at night, knowing that no matter 95% of the time, whatever happens, they're going to be okay. And that's what insurance does. It takes the risk out of it, and it keeps you from going, okay, well, what if this happens?
Yep.
What if that happens? What if are we behind the 8 ball if this happens in our lives? Insurance should just take that away so you sleep well at night.
I think like what you even went through, I think a lot of people have this perception that just because someone hit me, I can just sue you and I'll get $1 million out of you.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's not true, right?
true.
I mean, it's like, and I'm not an attorney, so maybe an attorney will call in and say, Kyle, you're wrong. But I think people do have this almost like this knowledge that I don't know where it came from, of like, hey, if I just do you wrong, you could sue me and make $1 million. And what you found is like the company says, hey, here's the policy contract. Yeah. It says we only have to pay out X. That's all we're actually going to pay out to you. And then you have an attorney saying, I'm going to take 33%. You just start to get dwindled. And I mean, and that's where you're just like, man, oh man, what could I have done? I think this is what it's great, is like your own stories that you can come through with life, because you're not the only one. I mean, I think a lot of people, especially I'm sure a lot of these listeners, they have absolutely some friend or some family member that has had something that happened to them that they were nervous. Hopefully insurance covered it all, but some of these people didn't have enough insurance to cover it. And now like these new cars, right? They're so expensive. And a lot of these insurance companies will offer you a replacement cost endorsement on your auto policy. Most of them are like $25 or $35 a year per car. And they give you like disparate deductible. They'll give you accident forgiveness. They give you pet coverage now. I mean, it's really cool. And they're really trying to take care of the whole family, right? Even Fluffy, you're going to get a little bit money to take Fluffy to the hospital, right, to get checked out. Now, it's not everything, right? Maybe pet insurance is better, but these auto carriers...
pet insurance definitely is better.
Oh, absolutely.
More expensive, but better.
A little bit more expensive, but this auto policy is adapting to things that you never would have thought, like we're going to cover Fluffy now a little bit, right? And I think that these endorsements that would give you all that stuff, they also give you guaranteed replacement cost on your car. So if my car, let's just take COVID, right? My car, when I bought it in 2019, was $10,000. To buy that same car in 2020 or 21, remember all these dealerships, they were just like 10% fee here, we're going to go up here. I mean, it was like, so imagine if you totaled your brand new car and now the loan is squared away, right? Bank of America got their check from the insurance company. You got maybe a little bit back, maybe that down payment that you put on the loan, right? And now you're sitting there and you're like, hey, that $10,000 car is now a $15,000 car or a $20,000, right? All of a sudden, it's like, hey, for this $25 endorsement, this $35 endorsement, we would have picked up that increased cost. I think what we try to do is we don't try to say, like, you need to have this. We don't try to talk about, like, always a doomsday approach. I think what our job really is to say, here's what's out here. Yeah. Like, here's some cool endorsements that might give you some stuff. Yeah. And honestly, you don't have to take it. Because at the end of the day, right, you're going to sign off. You're going to say, nope, I'm all set with it. And it's going to be your life that gets affected, not really ours. Right. But our job is to really say, here's what's out here. Here's some premiums that they're going to cost you. And what we try to do is we try to say, you know what, maybe like we should buy this today, but maybe next year we look at that umbrella. Like we do that for a lot of first-time home buyers, right? Like they're coming through with their closings. They got to keep these margins in line. So, I mean, money's tight. And, I mean, you remember your first house. I remember my first house. I mean, all my money went out of my bank account before I knew what happened. Yeah. So we'll have an approach with a new homeowner that will say, hey, an umbrella policy is so incredibly important, and it is so insanely cheap. But maybe we get through the closing, and maybe this is something for next year. Yeah. And I think our approach to that is we're doing the right job by our clients. We're saying you should have this and here's the cost. But then we're not doing this like hard sale. We're trying to say, like, we understand. You're really just trying to get the house right now. Yeah. You're trying to say, Kyle, yeah. I get it, right? Yeah. But I want the house. That's why I'm calling you, right? As the bank says I need this stuff.
Thanks, but I get a need, an immediate need versus a should have. Yeah. A nice to have. And we'll get more into that. But right now, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, I do need to take a little bit of a break here. So we'll throw to a couple of commercials here and be right back in a couple minutes.
Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to refinance, don't waste time sifting through countless mortgage options. At MBA Mortgage, our licensed loan officers do the work for you. We shop the best rates from top lenders and tailor a mortgage solution just for you. Trust the experts at MBA Mortgage and call Matt Scott at 781-849-1118 or visit our website at www.mbamortgageteam.com. Your home, your future, your choice. MBA Mortgage has mastered the business of mortgages. And don't forget to check me out on Tuesdays during Chris Shea's Financial Puzzle Plan at 6 o'clock on WMEX.
Are you fit to retire? I'm Chris Shea, financial advisor at BPS Financial Services in Marshfield. I work with clients to create a 100-day plan that can help get you started so that you can get the most out of your retirement. You've worked your whole life towards your goal of retirement. Let BPS Financial Services put together a plan that will help you enjoy your retirement. Find out how a 100-day plan tailored to you can help you get started in your retirement at fit2retire.com/Chris-Shea or call 781-733-5996. That's 781-733-5996. And now for my fast red disclosure, as this has been compliance approved.
Chris Shea is a registered representative offering securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA/SIPC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity, located at 752 Ocean Street, Marshfield, Massachusetts, 02050.
You're listening to Chris Shea's Financial Puzzle Plan right here on 1510 WMEX and 101.1 FM in Quincy.
That's right. And let's call in and chat about this wonderful topic of insurance. It's such a lively thing to talk about here in the holiday season. It's 781-834-9639 to call in, ask a question, or just harass us and tell us we're a bunch of goofballs, which is perfectly fine. Again, 781-834-9639. For those of you that are actually paying attention and not in the midst of your dinner time. But if you want to ask a question, find out something because you heard something on, again, one of those wonderful commercials with Patrick Mahomes and Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
Yeah. I know, right?
So I got a daughter. She's 13. And her new favorite football player is Travis Kelce.
Of course.
And she's like, nobody knew who Travis Kelce was. That's why he's in all these commercials now. I'm like, honey, he actually was a big deal in the football world. And these commercials are running before the dating thing started. Yeah. She's like, no, it's only because of Taylor Swift. It's only because of Taylor Swift. You can't tell me any different. I know that I'm right. And I'm like, okay, honey, I'm not going to fight with you. But
I think it's been awesome. Honestly, my girlfriend watches football with me like all the time now. I think it's awesome. She's been doing an amazing job to get football into the girlfriend's mind.
It's funny because my past, I was a sport management major undergrad, so I worked in the sports industry, and one of the most ironic things is the creation of football in America. Do you know how that happened? No. Any clue, idea? All right. So it was one of my first classes was the history of sport. So they went in and talked about the evolution of football in America, which, for those of you who don't know, is Harvard and Yale and the Ivy League schools. It started off as a rugby thing, right? And one of these rugby, and I forget the details because it was 1993-ish, which is 30 years ago. Oh my God. Well, I'm aging myself. It was about 30 years ago. I was taking the sports management class on the history of sport, and they talked about the evolution of football, and there was the rugby team was playing, and the coach for the rugby team had just graduated. He was like an All-American or something in rugby. And he wanted to coach team, but because they didn't pay enough, he had to take another job. Oh, wow. Right? So what he did is he sent his better half to the scrimmages to take notes. Well, have you ever seen a rugby game?
Yeah.
You try and figure out what the heck's going on and describe it. it's when they say a scrum, like bodies are hitting, but there's strategy to it and all this sort of stuff. But she couldn't write the notes because things were happening too fast. So guess what they did? They paused in between plays.
Oh wow!
To start the snap again, right? So because a guy took a job and couldn't be there for practice, rugby started to slow down and become the start of the evolution of football
really
as we know
cool.
it.
Wow, huh?
And so for all of you women out there that are listening that are upset about the fact that men are always watching their football games, a woman is actually partially to blame for the sport of football becoming what it has become. The irony, right?
I know, right? It is really funny though to see how much has been happening about this Taylor Swift, and it really is crazy because I think all of us football fans, we just want to watch football,
right?
We don't care about some of this stuff, and but like I said, it's been helping.
Yeah, and the biggest shirt selling in America right now is Swift from the Eagles.
Man, oh man, huh?
Like you talk about a marketing genius.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's I think like my girlfriend. I mean, I love her, Lauren. If you're listening, and she every day will tell me a new stat about Taylor Swift. She's a billionaire, or she's maybe about to be a billionaire. Maybe I don't listen as well as I should be.
Did you know Taylor Swift was the #1 purchaser of season tickets in the NFL right now? But you didn't know that.
Wait, what? Really?
It's crazy.
No, I made that up, but it sounded good, didn't it?
Honestly, it would convince me after all that I've been seeing lately.
Because she'd have to buy a ticket to every single one of the stadiums for a luxury box, so that might actually be legit.
See, if you're not Taylor Swift, you can do that. But if you are Taylor Swift, you just buy steak in each stadium, and you can just go for free, basically.
I bet you they're probably even paying her to show up at this point. I mean, if I owned one of those stadiums, I'd probably be like, hey, Taylor,
and
for free, don't worry about it, right?
Right? We know you just did your world tour, made $110 million, but
a show.
A show. That's right. Meanwhile, the three of us still got to go to work tomorrow.
But on the flip side, like if I were an owner, I'd be like, I'd charge her double.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, I wouldn't let her in for free. I'd be like, oh, you're Taylor Swift? Oh yeah, the price for you just went up.
Yeah, it's like, oh, popcorn's now $50.
Yeah.
You can come in for free, but there's about 1,000 veterans in the local hospital that really need some cool stuff that you can pay for. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. Figure out how to leverage it to get some good press out of it. But it's interesting how all that stuff kind of comes full circle, and you never know how a choice that someone makes is going to impact the world.
It's incredible.
Their own personal world and the bigger world at large, right? Because, I honestly did not think my daughter would ever want to watch a football game. But if she can watch the Kansas City Chiefs now, she will actually sit down and watch a football game. Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But she's not really watching the game. She's just hoping that Taylor Swift is going to end up on TV, right?
Okay, don't ruin my dream here. The fact that she actually knows there's a football game and knows one of the players who's not like the star quarterback is it's phenomenal.
Well, I made the mistake the other day. I thought the Eagles game, I thought that game was going to be on Thursday, and I didn't realize it was a Monday game, right? So here we are, I think, Tuesday, and Lauren's like, oh, no, Kyle, that game happened Monday. Like, my girlfriend is knowing more about football now than I am. I'm like, oh, where's my man card? I'll clip off a corner on it, right? It's like, so I think it's like it's.
Or the other portion is good too. Could be right too. Like, you made a good choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know, right?
Again, divorce. So you talk about the dating thing.
Yeah.
And, I was always taught to go where the other people you want to meet are, right? So for women, there was always a conversation of learn sports, go hang out where the men are.
Yeah.
For me, when I was in college at UMass, I actually took a ballroom dancing class.
Cool.
Because I was a single guy and I was like, let me go where the women are.
Yeah.
And yes, there were probably 50 people in the class, and maybe 5 to 10 of us were men, and the rest were women.
Wow.
My only mistake was I did it when I was a sophomore. So I was 19 years old, and all the girls are 21, and they all want to go to the bars, and I have a fake ID. My only mistake was I did it too early.
Or that you didn't have the fake ID.
Didn't have the fake ID is probably the bigger mistake. And admitting that when I went to school at UMass Amherst and didn't have a fake ID is a different thing.
I know,
But I didn't drink much then either.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that big of a deal for me. I didn't need to go to the bars. And I actually was a designated driver pretty much more often than not because I had to laugh at my drunk friends, which is so much more fun. Granted, I had to herd them at the end of the night, but
right.
you know, it was highly entertaining to be able to make fun of them when they were not able to take care of themselves.
I know, right? I think we've all been there.
Oh yeah. And I've got some really funny stories that will embarrass a bunch of my friends, but we'll do that some other time. But yeah, so tonight the topic on the puzzle pieces is insurance. Amongst other things in the world of Taylor Swift and football. And let's not talk about my fantasy football team just getting destroyed. Oh, my God. Or the football game last night,
Yeah.
which I watched because I got destroyed in two different things. But anyhow, yeah, not fun. But you talk about family. We do a family pick 'em pool every week.
Oh, cool.
And last week, or this past weekend, if Chicago won, somebody else in the family won. If Minnesota won, it was points between me and somebody else. So I had to stay up to the end of the game and watch it and be like, oh no, I lost by a field goal at the last second. And in my fantasy football league, I was going against TJ Hawkinson, and he got enough points for me to lose in that football game. And kicked me out of the playoffs, too. So it was a double whammy for me.
Fantasy football, I've only done it once with a bunch of my friends. Man, it is so much fun. I
Except when you
had
lose.
no idea. Yeah, you're right, until you lose, right? But I had no idea how much fun it was because once you get your team of players, you are like so invested in watching every single game. I wanted to buy Red Zone at the time because I was like, I needed to watch all these games. So fantasy football, I actually kind of wish I had done it this year now.
Yeah, no, I tell people, and in my league that I do with my buddies, we've been doing it for 15, 17, 18 years, something like that. And, and it costs like $60 a year. So it's like, it's nothing, right? And, we've now got all these gambling sites and all the professional teams are hooked into gambling. I don't have any of the gambling sites because my gambling is taken care of by fantasy football.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go and waste money because, gambling, there's a reason why the casinos are the way they are is because
Absolutely.
they make the odds so that the odds are forever not in your favor as the bettor. So I don't bother gambling at all because I don't need to get that juice because my guys I'm already invested in 13 players a week.
Yeah.
Or 10 or 11, however many I got starting, 9, 3, 2, 8 or 9. Yeah, I don't need to bet.
Yeah, I think that's been like the thing is like, when they have like the Mega Millions that like comes out and you start to see like what like the payouts actually are, right? And then like the taxes and all this other stuff, you're like, man, you think you're going to win $1 million and you take home like what, like 400,000 or something like that. And you start to realize like not only did everyone buy a $1 ticket in this entire nation, but then whoever wins, they still get, this entity, I guess we would say, that is collecting these $1 tickets and taking that revenue, even if you win, they still get half this money back. And it's so for me, I've never really been a big gambler.
Well, I will do the lottery when it gets over. When it gets over $300 million, I'll throw $2 at a ticket.
Absolutely. We were doing the same exact thing. Me and my girlfriend, we don't like really gamble too much, but we do the same exact thing. The minute that thing hits a certain few $100 million, it's like, what do we have to lose? $1?
Yeah.
Right? You just throw them $1 and you just think, God, I would have so many Ferraris, it would not be funny. I mean, they would all be red too. Although, Lauren's favorite color is yellow, so I'd probably have, we'd have one or two maybe yellow Ferraris, but everyone else would be a red Ferrari. And so 300 million, man, I'd go through that so quickly in cars.
Right? To whoever said money can't buy happiness clearly has no idea what they're talking about.
But it's funny, right? So you talk about winning the lottery, the studies show that I think it's 50% of the people that win these big jackpots are broke in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think that is? Do you think they just mismanaged the funds? Do you think everyone comes to them to say, hey, can I have $10 here? Can I have $50 here?
Well, for the most part, it's money won. So like, oh, I can do whatever I want with this. And they're not prepared for the onslaught of responsibility that comes with that. Because, as you said, like, you've got family. Every one of your family members is going to come out of the woodwork and be like, hey, I got this idea for a restaurant.
Yeah.
All I need is $150,000. We'll get it started. It'll be great. You'll be my investor. I'll put in the sweat, whatever. Great. 150 grand, nothing, no problem. That's to get it started. That's not to build the building. Like, they don't have a real business plan in place. So next thing you know, the 150,000 becomes 500,000, and then the restaurant loses money because the person who's running it is not a restaurant manager.
They don't know what they're doing,
right?
yeah.
Again, you worked in the restaurant industry.
Margins are slim to none.
Yeah, like to make most restaurants go out of business in less than 5 years.
It's crazy.
Like, there's always something new coming out. In order to be successful at that, you've got to be constantly reinventing yourself.
Absolutely. Just
to be like, yeah, I'm going to have a burger joint. You're probably not going to make a ton of money. You're not going to make any back. So that's one person that comes in. You get 10 of those people. Okay, now that's $5 million out the door. Then you go out and you buy the big houses, right? Because you can buy the big houses.
Yep.
Then you buy the big cars, right? You talked about having, a Lamborghini for every day of the week.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, different color every day of the week, right?
Yeah.
Times 2 people in the household, times your kids. All this, you wind up spending so much money, and then you get into the lifestyle of having to spend that, right? Because, okay, let's say you buy a $30 million house, right? Okay, now you've got to upkeep that. The heating bill on that alone, right? Like, we talk about oil costs. I was talking to somebody a few years ago. They bought this house on the ocean in Lake Situate.
Yeah.
And it was 5,000 square feet, all windows.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Well, in the wintertime, that just seeps out air, and to keep that thing heated, they were going through like a tank of oil every 2 weeks.
Man, oh man.
At $1,000. It was like, okay, the upkeep on this house is now $30,000 a month. Oh, wait, like, you start to do that for 4 or 5 or 6 of these houses that you've bought, and all of a sudden it's like 100 million, 200 million gone.
I think that's what people don't think of is they, it's like I'm joking about a Ferrari, right? So like I would kill to have a Ferrari right now. The insurance policy alone on that car, right? The excise tax, all those things. And then you're just now getting into the maintenance of a car. And I have just a GMC pickup truck, just your normal run-of-the-mill Sierra. And the brakes needed to be redone. This is a 2021 truck, and the front brakes had to be redone. It was $1,000.
Yeah.
If I had a Ferrari, that's probably $100,000. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. Is like, you can buy it, but can you afford it?
Yeah.
Probably not. And I think that's exactly probably what happens.
That's what happens. And they wind up going out for big expensive dinners.
Yep.
And taking the entire family on a vacation because, oh my God, all my family's going to love me if I take them on this big trip to, I don't know, one of those Alaskan cruises, and I bring 50 people with me, and it costs $2,000 a person. Oh, wait, that's the $100,000 for a week.
I had a friend that actually won a decent amount of money. I think he won like 20,000, something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, a good amount of money for most of us. And what he said is exactly that. Kind of like that. He had gone through all of that cash, and he had gone through it in a very quick time. I think it was like within a few years he had gone through it. And so him and I were just chatting one day, and I didn't know that he had even won this money. He kind of just like was talking about it. And I'm like, man, like, you don't really want to ask, like, how could you lose all that money so quickly? But he starts talking about going to the bars with his friends all the time. And he goes, it would start off with, I would buy like the high-end scotch. And then I bought like a nice bottle of champagne on New Year's Eve. And so his thing was that he was going to the bar with his friends. And then he was kind of like offering to buy, rounds, which is like, I mean, all of us have done that, right? And I think it was like what you said, like it was like this found money idea. He didn't like earn it. And so I think it's like most of us, like I have a credit card, right? Like this debit card. It's not cash coming out of I'm just swiping it. It's not really in my head of like $100 here, $100 here, right? But if I was handing out $100 cash, it's like you would bet to know at the end of the night, I'm going to be like, wow, I just went through $500, right? And so he was basically saying he was going to the bar and not like overly buying, but just offering to buy his friends and stuff beers. Yeah. And throughout the years, it just slowly kind of trickled down.
Yeah. And it's funny because one of the sports heroes I have in Boston growing up here, Larry Bird, right?
Yeah.
He playing in the 80s, he didn't have these $300 million contracts. Like when he made $1 million, it was like, whoa, like, oh my God, that's crazy money. There are stories of him going back to Indiana and his friends being like, hey, Larry, you want to pick up the tab? And Larry going, no, buy your own.
Yeah.
Like, buy your own food. Like, just because I have money now, it doesn't mean I'm going to blow through it. He did buy the nice house. And when it was funny, though, because when people would ask him to buy stuff for them, he would not do it. But if somebody was like, yeah, let me pick up the tab, he'd be like, no, I got it.
I got it, yeah.
Right? Like his thing was every once in a while you just offer and it'll be fine. And sometimes we'll split it or whatever. But don't expect me to just be buying you everything because I got this contract.
I think that's the key. I mean, like Lauren and I will go out with like her parents, right? And like we'll go out with my parents, you know, and we'll try to offer, and the parents like always try to pay first, right? Like they'll slip the credit card to the waitress as she walks by, and I think that's really
your parents will say, "Oh, aren't you cute?"
Exactly, right? And I think that like you'd never want to stop offering to at least pay a little bit, because you don't want these people to think that you just think, okay, every time I call Dad and I'm like, hey Dad, let's go grab a burger, right? Go grab a burger and a beer. I don't want him to think, oh, Kyle's looking for his free meal again, which I mean, naturally that's exactly what it is. And
well, yeah. And my parents did that for me. Like my dad and my parents spent money, and I can remember when I moved back here and I got my job and we went out for dinner at Haddad's down here in Marshfield.
Yeah.
And the bill came, and my parents and I paid for it before it got to the table. My parents are so perturbed at me, like they were ready. My dad was ready to kill me. He's like, "What are you doing? Pick up the tab." I'm like, "I can finally buy a dinner for you, Dad. Chill out." He's like, "Oh, we could have gone to some other cheaper place if you want to do that." and I was like, "I got this one, Dad. You can buy the rest of them, but I at least bought one of them, right, while you were alive, just to recognize that you've done a lot for me."
Yeah, and isn't it also great? Like, doesn't every single like father and mother want to see their kid financially succeed? I mean, so I think that like your child now offering to buy dinner, buy lunch, right, and they can afford that, and you as a parent know like they can actually afford this now. It's not like it's going to kill them to pay for this. It's almost like maybe your father had that like, my son is like, he's kind of making it. And then it kind of reaffirms your parents that like, we kind of did an okay job, right? Maybe we didn't get everything right, but we did a good job.
Oh, yeah. So again, I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and I've told my daughter that I have 2 jobs with her. My first job is to keep her alive. My second job is to make her a fully functioning adult.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times that doesn't show up the way that she thinks it should show up, right? Like she'll do something and I'll be like she didn't hand her homework or something like that for school. And she got a bad grade for it. And I was like, okay, what do you learn from this? And she's like, you're not mad? I'm like, number one, you're only in 6th or 7th grade. This isn't going to your permanent record.
Yeah, right.
But what is the lesson you learn? And she's like, well, I learned that I have to turn things in on time. Otherwise, I have a negative consequence. I'm like, if you learn that in 6th grade, we are fine. Mm-hmm. And she was more upset about her grade than I was, because I went from like an A to an A- for the year. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a problem yet. Like,
I would have been just happy with that.
Yeah, like I was like, and you're more upset about this than I am. But the lesson was the important thing, right? And learning from the mistake as part of the parent. And I think that's more of what parents want, is their kids to be able to what I think parents should want is their kids to be decent adults and be able to take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
And if they can happen to, buy dinner for them every once in a while, great.
I mean, it really is like that's the most important thing, really. Like I think for like a lot of kids. I mean, I'm gonna say like a kid. I'm 35, right? And like I'm gonna say like the most important thing to me really is that my mom and my dad say, Kyle, we are proud of you.
Yeah.
Like that would like reaffirm to me all these wild and crazy things that I did when I was
stupid
a kid,
stuff you did,
right?
Yeah.
But I've maybe learned from my mistakes, and I'm now sitting here. That is what would mean the world, right? Is when your parents come to you and say,
Good choice.
good choice. I'm proud of what you've done, and I couldn't be any happier than you. And that's like, right? And then you go wild, right? Okay, cool. I accomplished that. Now let's go crazy again. And but I think that with a lot of, especially in today's world, right? I mean, you have social media that can be, my girlfriend and I, we want to have kids. I mean, we want to start a family. We want to do that. And we talk about like, oh my God, social media. Like, how are we going to handle it? What are we going to do when our child comes to us that like, were they made fun of on a post, right? Or did some boy make fun of her? And then like, we're like, man, so I don't have kids yet. I want kids, and I can't wait to kind of go through that because kind of like what you're, it's crazy to see what's out there. I mean,
it's about the communication. And speaking of communication, we are almost getting time for the end of our hour. Miraculous how quickly the time flies when you're having fun, right? If people were too shy to pick up the phone and call and ask about insurance questions, because we haven't talked about insurance the past half hour, but that's okay. Remind us how we would get in touch with Kyle Austin.
So you can find us a whole bunch of different ways. So I would say that the best is phone call. I'm still this old school guy. So phone call.
An old school guy at age 35.
Right, exactly. Right.
Don't you forget it.
So the phone call is probably the best way because we can talk to you. So our phone number is 781-447-5561. We also have our website. You can find us at either myinsuranceman.com, austininsurance.com, or myinsurancewoman.com. So we have all three of those. They all link you right to the same one. And then my email address, because please feel free, anyone that's listening, if you have a question, I would love to help you out. My email address is Kyle, that's Kyle, at myinsuranceman.com. And that's pretty much how you can reach us.
And also, I think if you run out of options, you can probably just call the station and be like, hey, that guy Chris Shea, the Financial Puzzle, how do I get in touch with the insurance guy? They've got my contact info as well, which you've heard on the ad today. 781-733-5996. That is my work number and my cell phone number. So if you call right now, it might actually ring on the air, but I won't answer it because I actually have to be on the air at the moment. As I got a text message from my daughter asking for more Netflix time because she's in bed sick right now.
And of course you said yes, right? Of course you accepted.
Yeah. I accepted because something's got to keep her occupied till I get home. Fortunately, I'm only about 10 minutes away from the studio, so able to bop out for this quick hour. Otherwise, I was going to be like, what am I doing on a Tuesday night with my kid who's in bed sick? The challenges of life. But no, this was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being on. And the fourth Tuesday of the month, we'll be doing this, the insurance chat. Next week, we'll have real estate questions with Leon Marion. He'll actually be calling in from the West Coast. He's going to get an education that he's got a conference out in Denver or something like that, or Oklahoma City.
Wow.
That he's going to be at, and he's going to be landing and then getting pretty much right on the phone with us. But dedication to try and help people out. And like I said, it's a financial puzzle. Don't be ashamed to say you don't know something. And
absolutely,
like I said at the beginning, if you think you've got insurance, have somebody take a look at it.
It's free.
Even if it's not Kyle, you got somebody else. Look for an independent advisor because they can go out and quote it, and we'll talk about that another time.
Absolutely.
Between independent and captive. But this has been great, and it's 7:00, so we're going to hand it back to the regular WMEX
Awesome.
programming.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.